Hi all, Kitamari here, trying out some of Iridescence. This is a visual novel, and what a lovely opening song it has. We're going to hit start. Hey there, great to meet you. My name is, actually, you know what? I want to make sure you get it right, so let me spell it out. One letter at a time, and then press enter when finished. Kitamari. That's right, Kitamari here. And most people will consider me a girl. Now, let me tell you about someone special. Sure, I've had crushes before. Until recently, I'd even tell you that I was in love with some of them. But I'm wiser now. Meeting Kira changed everything to the point where I don't recognize who I was before her. It's like I'm living in a different world entirely. Most of it seems brighter, some of it duller, but everything is much more saturated. Looking back over our time together on this island, it's hard to distinguish just how much of it was genuine. I don't doubt that I was coerced as a means to an end, but the fact that my feelings still linger so forcefully despite everything must mean something, surely? Sorry, this is difficult for me. Let me explain. I felt an instant connection the very second we locked eyes. It had caught me off guard and so took a little time for me to realize it, but it had been love at first sight. I had been really close to someone previously, but I hadn't allowed myself to look at other girls as anything more than friends. But that first encounter with Kita meant that I couldn't hide from myself any longer, and I didn't want to. I just wanted her. And it went beyond a physical attraction. We often ended up passionately debating until the sun went down. Even when our views were opposed, I felt only warmth from her. It doesn't matter what we did, whether we ended up laughing until we cried or just sat quietly and watched the world go by. Every moment we had felt precious. We were the only people in the world when we were together, and it was addictive. I'm not proud to admit it, but I spent the majority of the time we weren't together just longing to see her. Even then, I think deep down I knew it was too good to be true. Knowing the intensity of my feelings for Kita, you may not be surprised to hear that I passed out the first time we kissed. Sure, initially my heart raced to the point where I was worried I could be having a heart attack, but that wasn't why I lost consciousness. In fact, it was the opposite. I felt my heart rate rapidly slow as she kissed me. It got slower and slower until eventually my consciousness began to ebb away. The piercing green of her eyes slowly seeped from her irises. Wow. As my life force was drained from me and stolen by her. I wanted to move, to pull away, but I couldn't. I was trapped. At this point, I suspect you're wondering how I'm here telling you all this. Well, despite Kira having previously ripped the souls from countless victims, this time was different. She hesitated just a moment before the last of my life left me and pulled away. Once my heart rate had stabilized and I woke, Kira explained everything. Kira was an embodiment of the sea, the daughter of deities. She had made a pact which allowed her to take human form, but to maintain it she owed a payment, one human soul every lunar cycle. I know, it's a lot to wrap your head around. Don't worry, I don't expect you to believe me. There are times when I doubt it myself. But both the warmth and darkness of her eyes are seared into my mind. Please don't misunderstand me. I may be a victim, but so was she. To understand this, though, firstly you need to truly understand that Kira was never human, nor would she want to be. I say truly because you need to detach from everything you know, all that you have experienced since first opening your eyes. As she saw the world through an entirely different lens, one we could never truly fully understand. Kira had lived countless years in the depths of the ocean, a world we still know very little about, let alone how our actions impact it. As far as I'm concerned, Kira had good reason to despise our world, and she did. Well, at least until she met me. I know, I cringed saying it, but in fairness, they're her words, not mine. Kira said that when she made the deal to walk on land, she had never once contemplated not being able to fulfill her end of the contract, that she would ever have an issue killing a human. But because of me, Kira was unable to pay the debt of her pact, and so, silhouetted by the light of the full moon, her body was mercilessly ripped from her. And with that, my heart too shattered into 1,000 pieces. After that day, things were a blur, as if I was constantly squinting, but something happened that forced me to open my eyes wide. Little did I know that the time I'd spent with Kira on this mysterious island had been, in fact, just a prelude. Having fought through more than my fair share of hardships from a young age, I already had a tried and tested coping mechanism firmly in place. There's no grand secret behind it. It's quite simple, really. Numbness. I merely avoid processing difficult situations altogether, not allowing any emotion to surface. I figured I'd just unbottle and work through it all later in life once things had stabilized. My time with Kira had heightened my emotions to a level I hadn't thought possible, which made my strategy harder to execute this time. Losing Kira was like the first time a baby experiences pain. It had a profound freshness. I was angry at myself for letting my guard slip. I knew better. I didn't break routine. I went to school the very next day, confident that no one would notice anything out of the ordinary with me. What I wasn't prepared for is that even as the days passed, not one person asked about Kira. Her desk just sat empty, seemingly content with its fate. The main way I dealt with the pain was through distraction, and luckily Kira had left a lot to distract me with. Reality had most definitely been turned on its head. As summer approached, I found myself taking walks along the coast after school, willing the cool sea breeze to travel through my ears and clear my mind. I should have known that it wouldn't be the wind, but the sea that would hear my silent pleading. Silent pleading. It's ironic, really. This next chapter started much in the same way as the first. I walked, transfixed by the lapping waves, wondering how much they truly concealed as I used the wetness under my feet to navigate the tide line. If I'm being totally honest, what I was really wondering was if Kira was down there somewhere, at least in some capacity. It had been her world, her life, for countless years. She had poured her soul into guiding its fate and helping it overcome adversity time and time again. Surely it could return the favor. I gripped her bracelet, which I wore on my wrist. As the sharp shells dug into me, they relieved just a little of the pain. Unfortunately, this was one of many unhealthy coping mechanisms I'd unconsciously integrated into my daily life. The pain was quickly replaced with anger, as it so often was, more at myself than her. I ripped off the bracelet, the chain snapping as I did so. I clenched it tightly in my fist, seeking the pain to return, to force away the moisture I could feel welling in my eyes. With a primal cry, I hurled it far into the sea, the shells escaping the chain one by one as it flew towards the setting sun. I was exhausted and the water in my eyes blurred my vision, but it looked like fleeting clouds of vapor burst from the point where each shell hit the water. I quickly rubbed my eyes, but by the time my vision sharpened, any signs of the bracelet having ever existed were gone. As I unclenched my fists, I felt my knees weaken. I fought the urge to fall to the warm sand and instead gulped down how I was feeling, closing my eyes and counting backwards from 5 as I did so. When I reopened them, I saw a girl standing contemplatively on the rolling tide, the water rippling around her feet. I gulped again as I rapidly tried to blink away the specter, but with no luck. Despite her wavering opacity, her piercing, pale green eyes glowed intensely in the low light. For a second, it was as if Kira had returned, until I registered that they also held a childlike innocence. It wasn't her eyes alone that struck a chord with me. It was also, she was also wearing our school uniform. But how could that be possible? The school was small, I would have noticed her. She was striking. Her pale complexion and fiery red hair almost made it seem like she was in command of the setting sun. It was more than just her appearance, though. She exuded a powerful aura, one I now recognized as beyond human. I had no time to dissect this, though, as her tone held urgency. Kitamari? I didn't need to respond. My reaction was answer enough. Our time is brief, so you'll have to excuse the lack of pleasantries. My name is Melody, and like Kira, I am also of the sea. Unconsciously, my eyes widened at the mention of her name. You, Kitamari, are an anomaly, but I have a feeling you already know this. Her eyes narrowed. The choices you and Kira made have had a catastrophic effect. As it often did in moments like this, my sense of self dispersed. It was as if I was being told a fairy tale. As she spoke my name, it seemed unrecognizable. Still, I made sure I absorbed every word she said. I come on behalf of my sisters to tell you that it is imperative that you set things right before it's too late. Kitamari, you have access to a world we don't, and so I implore you, hear out our plea. Melody reached into her pocket and held something in the palm of her hand. She was too far away for me to make it out. Here, Melody said, blowing into her palm. I felt an icy breeze hit me as the spectral object was carried towards me, swaying ever so slightly. I raised my arm and barely felt it hit my open hand, but I instinctively closed my fingers around it all the same. I opened my fist to find a shimmering, iridescent feather which, like Melody, wavered in opacity as if between two worlds. Study it carefully, as you're the only one who can do this. I looked up at her blankly. The sea is without a guardian. There is another, but she is lost. This feather is hers. Melody gave me a doubtless smile as she and the feather faded away. I used the remaining precious few seconds to etch its image into my mind. Kitamari. Her voice was faint, and she was gone before she could even really start her sentence. As the ripples where Melody had stood disappeared, I reconnected to my body. I felt a weight in my stomach and noticed my fingers were quivering. I was shaking all over. Melody had not only forced the pain I had been holding down to the surface, but she had added extra weight on top of it. Everything, literally everything, now rested on my shoulders, and I wasn't strong enough. How could I be? I violently threw up, which only heightened the shaking. It was all too much. I'd never felt so pathetic, so frail. The journey home was grueling. As soon as I hobbled through the door, I made a beeline for the bottle of pills on the cabinet. Hands still shaking, I reached in and took one. Slumped against the wall, I waited for what felt like forever, and the shaking didn't subside. I needed it to subside. For a split second, a longing I thought I'd trained away came creeping back. I wished more than anything that I had someone to look after me. I took another pill, and another. I closed my eyes tight and waited again. Nothing. I picked up a fourth pill, panting heavily and sweating profusely. As I reached towards my mouth, the combination of my clamminess and the violent shaking sent the pill flying out of my hand and across the floor. Without making a sound, tears began streaming down my face. I pulled myself onto the bed as my body writhed. I gave up trying to resist and let the pain take control until eventually it took all I had to give. I was grateful when I felt my consciousness ebb away. A stabbing pain in my stomach woke me early the next morning, which didn't surprise me. My head was spinning as I ran to the bathroom and violently threw up. As my stomach had been empty, it was painful, but I was just grateful I hadn't taken more pills. Although sore, I felt better as I sipped some water and nibbled on a bit of stale bread. It was a strange feeling. Probably hard to comprehend unless you've experienced something similar yourself, but a part of me felt renewed. It was as if I had needed that intensity to fill the few remaining blank areas of my slate with scribbles, leaving me with no choice but to wipe it clean and start afresh. I decided to get some fresh air, but took things slowly to give my body a bit of a break. I ambled around town for a few hours, striking things I'd avoided from my to-do list. All the shopkeepers seemed genuinely happy to see me, and perhaps seeing I was in need of it, they were keen to chat, which I appreciated. None of them mentioned Kira, even though I had always been with her, which was odd, but at the same time, I was becoming more comfortable with being seen as an individual. After a relatively productive day, I decided that some crab fishing, which I secretly enjoyed far more than I had let on, would help clear my mind. I received a phone call on my way there. This is a call to remind you to have your affairs in order as you will be relocated after your final exams. My throat tightened. But transport has been arranged with a taxi booked to take you to the airport. It was an automated voice. Be packed and ready to leave by 10 a.m. the day after your final history exam. Channeling my frustration into my foot, I unleashed it on the wall next to me. This wasn't wise. Hopping around, I wondered why I was so frustrated. I was effectively being given an escape, a chance to leave the pain and responsibility behind. I'd like to say that the frustration came from an honorable place, that I understood the gravity of my role, and that I wanted to finish Kira's story for her. I'd like to say that the frustration came from an honorable place, yep. But that wouldn't be true. Sorry. Do a little cut there, I think. In actuality, I'd merely reached the end of my tether. I had neither the physical nor mental capacity to move again. It was never discussed openly, but I understood why I had been moved around my whole life. I didn't need to be told that I wasn't like everyone else. Believe me, I knew. Still, understanding the reason didn't make it any easier. I had always vehemently stuck to the unspoken rules placed on me. I kept my head down and got on with things. I made a point of never drawing attention to myself. Kira was the one who approached me. She was the one who changed things. I had wanted to keep my distance, but I couldn't. I The little blink, the little blink of things gets me confused. I just couldn't. I sat back on the dock for what must have been hours, letting both time and my thoughts meander by. I was catching far fewer crabs than when I came with Kira. I wondered if her presence had drawn them in. I absent-mindedly played with my phone. Well, this is pretty. As I considered my situation, gliding it back and forth across the withered planks, making sure it didn't fall through the gaps. Just who is Melody? She must be connected to the bracelet somehow. Then it struck me. Something Kira had mentioned suddenly came back to me. She told me each of the shells on the bracelet belonged to a dear friend. Maybe one of them was Melody's? I froze as a gust of wind interrupted my thought. It sounded like it carried a single note with it, almost as if someone or something had flown past. We all constantly experience things that are out of the ordinary. The brain is good at brushing them off, keeping reality rigid. If something like this had happened previously, I probably wouldn't have given it a second thought, but my eyes had been opened. I was learning to listen more. Someone was trying to tell me something, I was sure of it. I unpaused and continued gliding my phone back and forth as I wondered how I'd even find the feather. The rhythm of the bumpy planks with the pauses of gaps helped me think. Would I even have time? The end of term was only a few weeks away, unless... I purposely tilted my wrist and felt a rush of satisfaction as my phone plopped into the water below. Out of sight, out of mind, I said, grinning triumphantly at the crabs. Oh, look at that little arm. The smallest one, a hermit crab, 3 centimeters long at most, waved up at me, seemingly in response. I looked around to double-check that I was alone before giving him a little wave back. He stopped waving immediately and stood there motionless. This made me laugh a lot harder than it should have. Love you too, bud, I said affectionately. Right. On that note, we should probably all head home, eh? I rested the bucket on its side over some rocks. The larger crab scuttled out immediately, but my new buddy was steadfast. I tried gently prodding him in the right direction, but he defiantly retreated into his shell. That little arm! Oh, that arm. As I pondered my next move, he sheepishly peered out. He looked over at me and waved hopefully. I waved back with a single finger, which he responded to by scuttling closer. Want to hang out for a while longer, little bud? Sleep over at mine? He was still waving, which I took as a yes. I added some more seawater and a few rocks to the bucket before heading off. I chatted to Marvin. He looked like a Marvin. On the way back as he excitedly scurried around his holiday home. Come on, if I can fall in love with someone from the sea, is chatting to a crab really that odd? All jokes aside, I was grateful for the company, even if it was only just one small step removed from talking to myself. I fell into a deep sleep that night, which was something I desperately needed. I felt a sense of peace when I woke up. Warmth emanated from the window. I buried my head under the duvet to try and delay my transition into the waking world. I let my eyes acclimatize to the filtered light before poking my head out to check the time. 10:23. I slept for almost 12 hours. Result: my body had definitely needed it. My symptoms were a lot more manageable when I was well rested. I looked over at the table to see how Marvin was faring, but he wasn't alone. I quickly darted my head back under the covers and heard the giggling of a little girl. Was I still dreaming? I squeezed my eyes shut tight before poking my head back out. I opened them slowly. Nope. She was definitely still there. Hiya, I'm Ayasa. She chirped cheerfully. What's your name? Kitamari. I responded hesitantly. Well, it's nice to meet you, Kitamari. She chirped, still beaming. And this is Marvin, right? She pointed inside the bucket she was hovering over. I nodded matter-of-factly. Wait, how did she know his name? He says he likes his name in the bucket, but that you're a bit of a downer. He also says he's hungry. I like her eyes. Oi, was about to launch into 100 questions, but was promptly cut off. Let's go to the beach and catch him some brine shrimp, Ayasal said with a forceful look. Okay, give me a couple minutes to get ready. Hold on, I've got some questions for you first. I have some questions for you first, lady. How did you get in here? That's the first one. Her expression didn't change. We can talk on the way. I went to the bathroom, splashed some water on my face, and absent-mindedly threw on a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. Ayasal looked up from the bucket and smiled as I re-emerged. Ready? She asked, holding out her hand. I couldn't help but return her a smile as I took it. The journey felt reminiscent of walking a dog. Ayasa was very energetic, constantly bounding ahead to take a closer look at something before running back, seemingly overjoyed and taking my hand. There was something very charming about her expression as she ran back. It was accomplished, almost smug, and it made me chuckle every time. It's okay. You don't have to be shy. I like questions. Okay, then. How old are you? She put a finger over her mouth and looked up at the sky for a minute. I don't remember, she said, smiling blankly. I decided not to push it. Why were you in my room this morning? Because you're my friend. She looked determined. Have we met before? I don't remember exactly, but yes, I promise we're friends. You don't remember? I don't know the words to say it. She looked uneasy. Don't worry, I believe you. Ayasal smiled gratefully. Ayasal, did you come from the sea? I didn't need a response. I saw her cheeks flush as she looked away. Do you know why you've come on land? Without turning back, she shook her head. I paused for a minute, considering my words. Well, I guess we'll have to find out together. Oh, her eyes. Ayasal hesitated before looking over at me. Her eyes glistened with moisture. It's a promise, I said reassuringly. She nodded once, but concern remained plastered over her face. I took the 2 strands of hair that framed her face and made a funny noise as I gently pulled on them. She giggled as I stuck out my tongue. So we know Marvin's hungry, but how about you? She nodded as she rubbed her face. Let's get you some seaweed then. Yuck, she exclaimed, sticking out her tongue in disgust. I couldn't help but laugh. Only joking. I'll get you the best milkshake on the island. Oh my goodness, Moo Moo Shake. I want to go there. Look at that. Look at that. That cow maid. That cow maid. Oh my goodness. Ayasa was bouncing up and down excitedly by the counter. They have Rocky Road. I choked a little in surprise. Might be a sea thing? What are you gonna get? Good question. This place always has some great limited flavors. I think I'll go with, Butter Biscuit Bonanza. S'more than enough. I'm gonna go with s'more than enough. Good choice. Mover and shaker. Try every type of milkshake there is? That's what I just received just now, even though I don't think I did try everyone received. Want to go and choose a table and I'll get the goods? Although popular, it was too early to be busy, so I was easily able to keep an eye on her. Isel had gone straight to the glass rail that lined the patio, holding herself up on her tiptoes. She peered over the edge, seemingly transfixed on the sea. I put down our milkshakes on the table and went to put my hand on her shoulder, but there was an intensity in the air which made me hesitate. What happened to choosing a table, eh? She turned around sharply, her eyes glazed. Isel? The sea, it's... She whispered, barely audible. Color slowly returned to her face as she watched my expression blankly. Her expression shifted to embarrassment once she realized what had happened. I mean, can we drink them on our way to the sea, please? She stuttered, cheeks flushed. Ayasa. I started, but she cut me off. Please call me Aya. I want to start fresh. She didn't sound at all like a child in that moment. I was taken aback, but tried not to show it. Aya, it suits you well. I have a milkshake for my friend Ayasal, but I suppose you can have it instead, Aya. She smiled from ear to ear as I handed it to her. Come on then, let's go. We can't leave Marvin out. I will have a link in the description. Definitely check out this visual novel if you're interested. I appreciate any comments and any feedback. And have a wonderful day. I'll see you later.